A homeless man returned a lost purse, and then he was invited to a party he could never have imagined. What started as a simple act of kindness would soon spiral into a life-changing moment for David, a man whose existence had been defined by despair. In a world that often overlooks the invisible, this unexpected invitation would challenge everything he thought he knew about hope and connection. Join us as we explore a story that proves kindness can open doors to unimaginable possibilities. David shuffled down the crowded city street, the weight of the world pressing heavily on his shoulders. At 50, life had taken its toll on him, leaving him with little more than a tattered jacket and a few coins rattling in his pocket. The bustling sounds of the city surrounded him, a cacophony of honking cars, chattering pedestrians, and the distant music of street performers. Yet, amidst the vibrant life of the city, he felt like a ghost, invisible to the hurried passers-by who moved with purpose, their lives filled with meaning and direction. As he turned a corner, the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows on the sidewalk. The golden light softened the edges of the city, but it did little to warm the chill that settled in David's bones. He paused for a moment, taking in the scene, a young couple laughing as they strolled hand in hand, children chasing each other with delight, and street vendors calling out to potential customers. It was a world brimming with joy. Yet David felt like an outsider looking in. His gaze fell on a young woman rushing past. She wore a bright red coat that seemed to dance around her as she moved, her laughter ringing like a bell. In her haste, she dropped her purse, a small, elegant bag that seemed out of place on the gritty sidewalk. David watched as it landed softly, the contents spilling slightly. A glimpse of a wallet, a set of keys, and a phone peeking out. For a fleeting moment, he hesitated, his heart racing as he considered picking it up. The purse represented more than just a collection of items. It was a symbol of someone's life, filled with memories, aspirations, and secrets. David felt a pang of longing in his chest as he imagined what it must be like to have such things. An identity, a routine, relationships. He glanced around, half expecting someone to rush back and claim it. But the crowd continued to flow around him, oblivious to the moment of crisis unfolding at their feet. His mind whirled with conflicting thoughts. A part of him longed to keep the purse, to take whatever he could find inside to make his day a little easier. He could use the cash, maybe buy himself a hot meal or even a warm drink to fend off the cold. But another part, the part that still held onto his humanity, urged him to return it. It was a moral dilemma that tugged at his conscience, a decision that felt like a test of his character. As he stood there, frozen between choice and consequence, he felt a sense of urgency rising within him. He glanced toward the woman, who was now turning around, her expression shifting from carefree joy to panic as she realized her loss. David's heart sank at the sight of her distress. This moment was pivotal, not just for her, but for him as well. With a deep breath, he made his choice. He couldn't take this purse. It was not just a bag, but a piece of someone's identity. With steady hands, he picked it up, cradling it like a fragile treasure. He resolved to return it to her, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within him, a hope that perhaps he could still be a part of the world he felt so distanced from. As he approached her, he noticed the worry etched on her face. It was a look he had seen many times in others, the kind of fear that stemmed from losing something precious. He quickened his pace, calling out to her, "Excuse me, you dropped this." His voice was hoarse, a sound he was unaccustomed to using as he often spoke little these days. The woman turned, her eyes widening as she spotted him holding her purse, Relief washed over her features, and she rushed toward him. "Oh my gosh, thank you so much," she exclaimed, her voice a melody of gratitude. "I thought I lost it forever." David handed her the purse, their fingers brushing briefly. In that moment, he felt a spark of connection, a reminder that kindness still existed in the world. "I just found it on the ground," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "I couldn't keep it." As she looked him in the eyes, something shifted. Rather than seeing a homeless man, she seemed to see a person, a fellow human being. "You're really kind," she said softly, her expression sincere. "Can I buy you a coffee or something? You must be cold out here." David hesitated, caught off guard by her offer. It had been so long since anyone had shown him such kindness. I wouldn't want to impose," he stammered, a mix of emotions swirling within him. "Please," she insisted, her smile warm and genuine. "It's the least I can do for you returning my purse." With the flicker of hope growing into a flame, David nodded, unable to suppress the smile that broke across his face. This simple act of kindness was the beginning of an unexpected journey, a thread connecting their lives in ways neither could yet understand. As they walked together, side by side, David felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced in a long time, setting the stage for the transformative events to come. David sat across from Emily in a cozy little cafe, the warm atmosphere a stark contrast to the cold, hard streets he was used to. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the sweet scent of pastries displayed in a glass case. He glanced around, taking in the cheerful chatter of patrons and the soft clinking of cups, feeling slightly out of place, yet oddly comforted. It felt surreal to be inside a warm space like this again, far removed from the realities he faced daily. As they waited for their drinks, David couldn't help but notice the way Emily's eyes sparkled with genuine interest. She was young, maybe in her late 20s, with an infectious smile that seemed to light up the dim corners of the cafe. He felt a flutter of nerves as he considered how much to share about himself. For years, he had kept his story locked away, guarded by the walls he'd built around his heart. When their drinks arrived, steaming mugs of coffee and a slice of rich chocolate cake that Emily insisted they share, David felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. The cafe was buzzing with life, yet he felt like he was in a bubble, isolated from the world outside. He took a sip of the coffee, the warmth spreading through him, and decided to take a leap of faith. "So, what do you do for a living?" he asked, trying to steer the conversation to safer waters. "I'm a social worker," Emily said, her expression brightening. "I work with families in need, helping them get back on their feet. It can be challenging, but I love it. I believe everyone deserves a chance to rebuild their lives." Her passion was evident, and David found himself drawn to her enthusiasm. It was refreshing to hear someone speak with such conviction about making a difference. He hesitated, then began to share snippets of his own life. "I used to be an artist," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I had dreams of painting and showcasing my work in galleries. But life took some unexpected turns." He felt a lump form in his throat, the memories flooding back, his family, the losses, the events that led him to the streets. Emily listened intently, her eyes reflecting compassion. "What kind of art did you create?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Mostly landscapes and portraits," he replied, a hint of pride creeping into his voice. "I loved capturing the beauty of everyday life. But it all feels so far away now." He looked down at his hands, rough and calloused, a stark reminder of the years spent struggling to survive. "That sounds beautiful," Emily said, her admiration palpable. Art has a way of connecting people, of telling stories that words sometimes can't. David felt a warmth spread through him at her words, a flicker of hope igniting in the depths of his heart. Maybe there was still a place for him in the world of art, a chance to reconnect with the passion he once had. As they continued talking, David found himself opening up more than he had anticipated. He shared stories of the streets, the kindness of strangers, the moments of despair, and the small victories that kept him going. Emily responded with her own tales, recounting experiences from her job that highlighted both the struggles and triumphs of the people she worked with. Each shared story seemed to build a bridge between their worlds, drawing them closer together. After finishing their drinks, Emily suggested they take a walk in the nearby park. The idea of being outdoors, surrounded by nature, felt refreshing compared to the confines of the cafe. As they strolled along the path, David felt an unfamiliar warmth growing within him, a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced in years. The sun filtered through the trees, casting playful shadows on the ground. And for the first time in a long while, he felt a connection to the world around him. Emily pointed out the vibrant flowers blooming along the path, their colors bursting with life. "Isn't it amazing how something so beautiful can grow in the midst of chaos?" she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. David nodded, taking in the sight, a metaphor for his own life, perhaps. Amidst the chaos of his situation, could he find beauty again? As they reached a quiet bench, Emily paused, turning to David with a thoughtful expression. "I have an idea," she said, her voice brightening. "There's an event at my community center this weekend, a gathering for people in the neighborhood. It's a chance to meet others, share stories, and just connect. I think you'd really fit in." David's heart raced at the invitation. The thought of attending such an event felt daunting yet exciting. Could he really step back into the world he had been so distant from? The old fears crept in. What would people think of him? Would they judge him for his past? But Emily's encouraging smile reassured him. "You won't be alone. I'll be there with you," she promised, her sincerity cutting through his doubts. After a moment of contemplation, he nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. "Okay, I'll come," he replied, surprised at his own willingness to embrace the unknown. As they walked back toward the cafe, David felt lighter, buoyed by the unexpected connection he had forged with Emily. Her kindness had rekindled a spark within him, a reminder of the possibilities that lay ahead. As they parted ways that day, David couldn't shake the feeling that his life was on the brink of change. Walking back to his usual spot on the street, he felt an unfamiliar sense of excitement flutter in his chest. Perhaps this encounter was just the beginning of a new chapter, one that held the promise of transformation, connection, and perhaps even redemption. The day of the community gathering arrived, and David felt a whirlwind of emotions as he prepared to leave the temporary shelter he had called home for the past few weeks. The sun shone brightly, casting a golden hue over the city, illuminating the streets he had walked countless times. Today felt different, charged with a sense of purpose that he hadn't felt in years. He dressed carefully in the best clothes he owned, a slightly wrinkled button-up shirt that had seen better days and a pair of jeans that clung to him like a second skin. As he stood in front of a cracked mirror, he took a moment to assess his reflection. He saw a man who had been weathered by time and hardship, but beneath that exterior, he searched for the artist, the dreamer that he used to be. As he made his way to the community center, David couldn't shake the feeling of apprehension that gnawed at him. What if people judged him? What if they only saw his circumstances and not the person he was inside? Each step felt heavier than the last, the weight of his insecurities pressing down on him like a thick fog. But the thought of Emily waiting for him gave him the strength to push through the doubts swirling in his mind. When he arrived at the community center, he paused outside the entrance, taking a deep breath to steady himself. The vibrant atmosphere spilled out into the street, where laughter and music intertwined in a symphony of joy. Colorful banners hung from the ceiling, and the sound of children's laughter echoed around him, creating an inviting ambiance that made his heart race with both excitement and fear. Taking another deep breath, he pushed open the door and stepped inside, feeling the warmth wash over him like a comforting embrace. Inside, the community center buzzed with life. People of all ages mingled, their voices creating a lively hum that filled the air. Tables were set up around the room, each adorned with homemade decorations and an array of food that made David's stomach rumble. The smell of freshly baked goods wafted through the air, mingling with the rich aroma of coffee and the faint scent of blooming flowers. As he scanned the room, he felt a mix of awe and anxiety. This place was alive with energy, and for a moment, he felt like he was standing on the outside looking in. Then he spotted Emily across the room, her face lighting up when she saw him. She waved him over, her smile bright and welcoming. "David, you made it," she exclaimed, her voice cutting through the noise and grounding him in the moment. "Yeah, I did," he replied, trying to match her enthusiasm. As he approached, he noticed how her presence seemed to radiate warmth, making the room feel more inviting. "Thanks for inviting me." "Of course, I'm so glad you're here. Come on, let me introduce you to some people." Emily took his hand, leading him further into the crowd. As they walked, David felt the initial tension in his shoulders begin to ease. Emily was a force of positivity, and her energy was contagious. Emily introduced him to a few people gathered around a table laden with food. "This is Marcus," she said, pointing to a tall man with a friendly face and a warm smile. "He runs a local art program for kids, and he's always looking for volunteers." David's heart skipped a beat at the mention of art. Could this be an opportunity to rekindle his passion? Marcus extended his hand, his grip firm and welcoming. "Hey, David. Nice to meet you. Emily's told me a little about you. I'd love to hear more about your art." The sincerity in his voice put David at ease. "I used to paint landscapes and portraits," David began, feeling a rush of nostalgia wash over him. "I've always found it to be a way of connecting with the world around me." As he spoke, he noticed Marcus nodding, his interest genuine. The more he shared, the more he felt the weight of his past begin to lift. Their conversation flowed easily, and soon David found himself laughing and joking with Marcus and the others around the table. They discussed techniques, favorite artists, and the joys of working with children. David felt invigorated, as if he were rediscovering a part of himself that had been dormant for far too long. After a while, Emily returned to his side, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "How are you doing?" she asked, her tone filled with genuine concern. "I'm good. Really good, actually," David replied, surprised at how easily he had connected with the group. "I didn't expect to feel so comfortable here." "I'm glad to hear that," she smiled, her expression radiating warmth. In that moment, they shared a quiet understanding. It was a moment of connection that felt deeper than words, an acknowledgement of the journey they were both on. As the event continued, David moved from table to table, meeting more people and sharing his story. He felt buoyed by their support and encouragement, and each new conversation added to the tapestry of hope he was beginning to weave for himself. He learned about various community initiatives, each one driven by a desire to uplift and empower those in need. At one point, Emily pulled him aside, her expression turning serious but kind. "I'm really proud of you for coming today," she said, her voice sincere. "It takes a lot of courage to step out of your comfort zone." David felt a rush of gratitude. "Thank you for pushing me to come. I don't think I would have done it without you." The connection he felt with Emily deepened with each passing moment. She wasn't just a stranger anymore. She was becoming a friend, someone who believed in him even when he struggled to believe in himself. As the gathering progressed, a local musician began to play soft melodies on the guitar, drawing a small crowd. David watched as people swayed to the music, their faces reflecting joy and contentment. The atmosphere was infectious, and he felt himself getting swept up in the moment. Emily nudged him playfully. "Come on, let's dance." At first, David hesitated, self-conscious about his lack of rhythm. But Emily's laughter was contagious, and her infectious spirit encouraged him to loosen up. They joined the small circle of people dancing, and David found himself moving to the music, laughter bubbling up from deep within him. In that moment, he felt free from judgment, free from the burdens of his past. As the event began to wind down, Emily suggested they take a moment outside to enjoy the fresh air. They stepped onto a small patio where the sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and pink. David leaned against the railing, breathing in the crisp evening air and feeling alive in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. "Today was amazing," he said, glancing over at Emily. "I can't remember the last time I felt this accepted." Emily looked at him, her eyes softening with understanding. "You deserve this, David. Everyone here wants to see you succeed. You have so much to offer." Her words resonated within him, igniting a flame of hope that had been dormant for far too long. As they stood together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, David realized that this gathering was more than just an event. It was a turning point. He was beginning to see the possibility of a brighter future, one where he could reclaim his passion for art and build new connections. And most importantly, he was beginning to believe that he was worthy of those connections. "Thank you for being here with me," he said quietly, his voice filled with sincerity. "I don't know what the future holds, but I feel like it's starting to change." Emily smiled, her expression filled with warmth and encouragement. "I'll be here every step of the way, David. We're in this together." As they turned back toward the community center, David felt a sense of determination settling in his chest. This was just the beginning of his journey, and with newfound hope and the support of his growing friendship with Emily, he felt ready to embrace whatever came next. As they re-entered the bustling center, David couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude for the unexpected turn his life had taken. The connections he was forming, the warmth he was receiving, and the encouragement to pursue his passions were all elements he had thought lost to him forever. With each step he took alongside Emily, he felt a little more like the man he once was, and a little less like the shadows that had haunted him. This was his moment, a moment filled with potential, waiting to unfold. The days following the community gathering felt like a whirlwind for David. He found himself riding a wave of newfound energy and optimism, spurred on by the connections he had made and the warmth of Emily's encouragement. The once daunting streets of the city now felt less intimidating, infused with a sense of possibility that had been absent for far too long. David began visiting the community center more frequently, drawn by the vibrant atmosphere and the people he had met. He volunteered at various events, helping set up tables, serving food, and engaging with the community members who came through the doors. Each interaction chipped away at the walls he had built around himself, allowing him to rediscover the joy of connecting with others. The laughter of children, the chatter of families, and the camaraderie of fellow volunteers filled the space, creating a sense of belonging that David had long yearned for. One afternoon, while stacking chairs after a workshop, Marcus approached him with an excited smile that lit up his face. "Hey, David, I have an idea I want to run by you," he said, his enthusiasm palpable. "We're organizing a local art fair next month, and I think it would be amazing if you could showcase some of your work." David's heart raced at the suggestion, a mixture of excitement and dread flooding through him. Showcasing his art was a dream he had tucked away, buried beneath layers of self-doubt and fear. "I don't know, Marcus. It's been a long time since I've actually painted anything," he admitted, his voice laced with uncertainty. "Exactly. This is the perfect chance to get back into it," Marcus encouraged, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "You've got talent, David. And besides, this fair is all about community. It's a supportive space. You won't be alone up there." David felt a flicker of excitement mixed with apprehension. The thought of sharing his art again was both exhilarating and terrifying. But as he remembered the warmth of the community gathering and the way people had responded to his stories, he felt a sense of determination rising within him. "Okay, I'll think about it," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt, although his heart was racing at the prospect. Over the next few days, David found himself daydreaming about the idea of showcasing his work. He began visiting local art supply stores, allowing himself to linger in the aisles filled with paints, brushes, and canvases. Each time he picked up a brush or a tube of paint, memories of his past flooded back. Long nights spent in front of a canvas, pouring his soul into his art. The thrill of creation beckoned to him, rousing emotions he thought he had lost forever. With Emily's encouragement, David finally decided to take the plunge. He spent countless hours in his small room at the shelter, transforming the blank canvases into vibrant landscapes and portraits. Each stroke of the brush felt liberating, as if he were reclaiming a piece of himself that had been lost in the chaos of his life. He painted with a renewed sense of purpose, infusing each piece with the stories of his journey, the struggles, the triumphs, and the hope that had begun to blossom within him. The process wasn't without its challenges. There were days when frustration threatened to overwhelm him, when the paint wouldn't blend as he envisioned, or when he could not capture the image in his mind's eye. Yet, with every setback, he found a way to push through. He learned to embrace the imperfections of his art, recognizing that they were part of his story. The canvas became a mirror of his journey, reflecting not only his skills but also his resilience. As the day of the art fair approached, David felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. He worked tirelessly, creating a small collection that reflected his experiences and emotions. With each completed piece, he felt a little more confident. But the fear of judgment still lingered in the back of his mind. What if people didn't like his work? What if they saw him only as a homeless man trying to be an artist? On the morning of the fair, David arrived early to help with the setup. The community center had been transformed into a bustling marketplace of creativity, with booths displaying artwork, crafts, and handmade goods from local artisans. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as families and friends gathered to support their community. Colorful banners hung from the ceiling, and the sound of laughter filled the air, creating a festive ambiance that made David's heart race. As he set up his booth, adorned with his paintings, David felt a knot of anxiety in his stomach. He arranged each piece carefully, trying to showcase his work in the best possible light. The vibrant colors of his landscapes contrasted beautifully against the white backdrop of the booth. But he couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability that came with displaying his art for all to see. He took a deep breath, reminding himself of the encouragement he had received from Emily and Marcus. This was his chance to share a part of himself with others, to show them that he was more than his circumstances. When the fair officially opened, a steady stream of people began to wander through the booths. David watched as families paused to admire the artwork, their expressions filled with curiosity and appreciation. Each compliment felt like a small victory, fueling his confidence with every passing moment. "Wow, this is incredible," a woman exclaimed as she examined one of David's landscape paintings. "The colors are so vibrant. You have a real talent." David's heart soared at her words. "Thank you. I really appreciate that," he replied, a genuine smile spreading across his face. With each interaction, the walls he had built around himself began to crumble a little more. He felt warmth spreading through him, a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. As the day went on, Emily stopped by to check on him, her eyes lighting up when she saw the crowd gathered around his booth. "David, look at this. You're a hit," she said, her excitement infectious. "I can't believe it," he said, still in disbelief. "I thought maybe a few people would stop by, but this is amazing." "Of course. You have so much to offer," she replied, her enthusiasm making David feel like he could conquer the world. "You're connecting with people through your art. That's a gift." As the afternoon sun began to dip lower in the sky, David found himself surrounded by a diverse group of people, all eager to hear his story behind each piece of art. He shared anecdotes about his life, the experiences that inspired his work, and the journey that had brought him to this moment. People listened intently, their faces reflecting empathy and understanding. At one point, as he explained the meaning behind a particularly poignant painting, a portrayal of a sunset over a city skyline, David felt a wave of emotion wash over him. "This piece represents hope," he said, his voice thick with feeling. "No matter how dark things get, there's always a light on the horizon. You just have to keep moving toward it." The crowd was silent for a moment, absorbing his words, and then a round of applause erupted. David's heart swelled with gratitude and disbelief. In that moment, he realized that he was not alone. He was part of a community that valued his story and his art. Each clap resonated within him, affirming that he was worthy of being heard and appreciated. As the day drew to a close, David packed up his remaining paintings, feeling an unfamiliar sense of fulfillment. He had shared a piece of himself with the world, and the response had been overwhelmingly positive. People had connected with his art, and more importantly, they had connected with him. Emily approached him, her eyes sparkling with pride. "You did it, David. I knew you had it in you," she said, pulling him into a tight hug. "I can't believe how well it went," he replied, still processing the day's events. "Thank you for believing in me. I wouldn't have done this without your support." "You deserve all of this and more," she said, stepping back to look him in the eye. "This is just the beginning for you. I can see it in your eyes. You found your passion again." As they walked back toward the community center, David felt a lightness in his step. The fair had been a turning point, a moment of renewal that had reignited his passion for art and given him a sense of belonging. He was beginning to understand that his past did not define him. It was simply a chapter in a much larger story that was still unfolding. The experience had opened doors he never thought possible. And as he looked over at Emily, he felt a surge of gratitude for her unwavering support. She had been a guiding light in his journey, helping him navigate the darkness and find his way back to himself. "I'm excited to see where this leads," David said, his voice filled with determination. "I want to keep painting, keep sharing my story. I want to be a part of this community." Emily smiled, her eyes brimming with encouragement. "I have no doubt you will. There's so much potential in you, David. Just keep moving forward." The following weeks were a blur of activity for David. He began working more closely with Marcus, who invited him to participate in the art program for kids that he ran. For David, teaching these children felt like a way to give back, to inspire the next generation of artists. He found himself pouring his heart into each lesson, teaching them not only techniques, but also the importance of expressing themselves through art. Every time he entered the classroom, he was met with eager faces, hungry for knowledge and creativity. The children reminded him of his younger self, filled with dreams and untainted by the harsh realities of life. Each session was a reminder of why he had fallen in love with art in the first place. As he painted alongside them, David felt a profound sense of joy and fulfillment. Watching their eyes light up as they created their own masterpieces reignited a flame within him. He realized that art wasn't just about creating. It was also about connection, sharing stories, and fostering community. One afternoon, while working on a mural with a group of kids, David noticed a young girl named Lily, who seemed hesitant to participate. She stood back, clutching her paintbrush as if it were a lifeline. Sensing her apprehension, David approached her gently. "Hey, Lily," he said, kneeling down to her level. "What's on your mind?" "I don't know how to paint like you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if it's not good enough?" David smiled, recalling the fear he had felt before showcasing his own work. "You know, art isn't about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself and having fun. Every piece you create is a reflection of who you are. Just let your imagination guide you." With his encouragement, Lily picked up her brush and began to paint, her confidence growing with each stroke. As she added splashes of color to the mural, David felt a sense of pride swell within him. He was not just teaching art. He was helping these children find their voices. After the mural was finished, the kids stood back to admire their work. The vibrant colors and whimsical designs reflected their personalities, and David felt a surge of joy at the sight. They had created something beautiful together, a testament to their creativity and collaboration. That evening, as David walked home, he reflected on how far he had come. The streets no longer felt like a burden. Instead, they were filled with possibilities. He had found purpose in teaching, in sharing his passion for art with others, and in inspiring those who were just beginning their journeys. As he reached the shelter, he felt a sense of gratitude wash over him. He had discovered a community that accepted him for who he was, a place where he could grow and thrive. The support he had received from Emily, Marcus, and the children had helped him reclaim his identity. And for the first time in years, he felt hopeful about the future. With a heart full of determination, David began to sketch out plans for his next steps. He envisioned more art classes, community projects, and perhaps even an exhibition to showcase the work of the children he taught. The idea of giving them a platform to share their voices thrilled him, and he knew he had to make it happen. As he settled into bed that night, David closed his eyes with a smile. He was no longer just surviving, he was living. He had found a purpose, a community, and above all, a path forward. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, he felt ready to embrace it. The weeks flowed together in a colorful tapestry of creativity and connection. David immersed himself in the art program, his days filled with laughter and the sound of paintbrushes dancing across canvases. The children had become a source of inspiration, their unfiltered enthusiasm reminding him of the joy of creation he had once lost. Each session blossomed into a vibrant exchange of ideas, colors, and dreams. As David watched his young students explore their artistic voices, every Tuesday and Thursday, the community center erupted into a lively studio, filled with the scent of fresh paint and the sound of excited chatter. David introduced different techniques, watercolor, acrylics, and even mixed media, encouraging his young artists to experiment and express their emotions through art. They painted everything from abstract designs to whimsical characters, each piece uniquely representing their personalities and stories. The walls of the community center began to fill with their work, transforming the space into a gallery of childhood dreams and aspirations. One afternoon, while stacking supplies, a young girl named Mia approached him with wide eyes. "Mr. David, can I paint a dragon?" she asked, her enthusiasm infectious. "Of course, Mia. Dragons are an amazing choice. What colors do you want to use?" he replied, kneeling to her level. As she excitedly described her vision, a vibrant green and gold dragon soaring through the sky, David felt a surge of inspiration. "Let's sketch it out together first," he suggested, pulling out a large sheet of paper. Mia beamed as they worked side by side, drawing the outline of her dragon. Watching her imagination come to life filled David with a sense of purpose. Moments like these, where he could guide a child's creativity, reminded him of why he had fallen in love with art in the first place. As he spent more time with the kids, David found that they were not just students. They were allies in his journey. Their innocence and creativity ignited a spark within him, reminding him of the artist he had once been. He began to take risks in his own work, breaking free from the confines of his past insecurities. Inspired by the children, he ventured into new styles and themes, exploring his emotions in ways he hadn't dared to do before. One afternoon, as they prepared for another art class, Marcus approached David with an idea that made his heart race. "I've been thinking about a collaborative project," he said, his eyes alight with excitement. "How about we create a mural that represents our community? We can involve everyone, children, families, even local artists. It'll be a celebration of who we are." David's mind whirled at the thought. A community mural. It was an opportunity to merge his passion for art with his desire to strengthen the bonds within the community. "That sounds incredible," he replied, enthusiasm bubbling up inside him. "We could have everyone contribute a piece that reflects their story." "Exactly." Marcus grinned. "Let's plan a workshop where people can come in, brainstorm ideas, and start sketching their contributions. We can unveil it at the next community event." The idea took root in David's heart, and he dedicated himself to organizing the workshop. He reached out to families, encouraging them to participate and share their stories. With Emily's help, they spread the word through flyers and social media, inviting everyone to join in on the creative process. As the date approached, excitement buzzed through the community, and David felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced in years. On the day of the workshop, the community center was alive with energy. Tables were set up with paints, brushes, and canvases, and the walls were lined with sketches and ideas for the mural. Families arrived, bringing their children, and the atmosphere was filled with laughter and chatter. David moved through the crowd, welcoming each participant with a warm smile. "Thank you all for being here today," he called out, his voice ringing with enthusiasm. "This mural is a chance for us to share our stories and celebrate our community. Let your creativity flow." As they began to sketch and paint, David felt a surge of inspiration. He wandered from table to table, offering guidance and encouragement. He watched as families collaborated, sharing ideas and laughter, each brushstroke weaving their stories into the fabric of the mural. One young boy named Sam, who had initially been shy, began to open up as he painted. He created a vibrant tree that represented his family, each leaf a different color, symbolizing the diversity within their household. "This one's my mom, and this one's my dad," he explained, pride shining in his eyes. David knelt beside him, admiring the artwork. "That's beautiful, Sam. You've captured your family perfectly." As the workshop progressed, David felt a profound sense of connection to each participant. The mural was becoming a collaborative expression of their hopes, dreams, and experiences. It was a testament to the strength of their community, a visual representation of the love and support that had blossomed in the wake of his own struggles. In the midst of the activity, David noticed a middle-aged woman standing off to the side, watching the proceedings with a mixture of curiosity and hesitation. Her arms were crossed tightly, and she seemed uncertain about joining in. David approached her gently. "Hi there. We'd love for you to join us. What do you think about contributing to the mural?" She looked hesitant. "I haven't painted since I was a kid," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure if I'd be any good." "Art isn't about being good. It's about expressing yourself," David reassured her, "letting go of your worries and just having fun. You might surprise yourself." After a moment of contemplation, she smiled shyly and agreed to give it a try. David guided her to a table, and soon enough, she was laughing and painting alongside others, her earlier apprehension melting away. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the center, David reflected on how far he had come. The fear and uncertainty that had once held him captive were replaced by a sense of belonging and purpose. He was no longer just a homeless man trying to find his way. He was an integral part of something larger, an artist, a mentor, and a friend. When the mural was finally unveiled at the community event a week later, David felt a wave of pride wash over him. The vibrant colors and intricate designs told the stories of the people who had contributed, creating a tapestry of their lives. As the crowd gathered to admire the mural, David stood at the forefront, his heart swelling with emotion. Emily joined him, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "You did it, David. Look at what you've created with everyone." "I can't believe how beautiful it turned out," he said, overwhelmed by the response. People were taking photos, pointing out their contributions, and sharing stories about the artwork. The mural had become a focal point of the event, drawing people together in celebration. As the evening progressed, David found himself surrounded by friends and community members, each one sharing their thoughts on the mural. They spoke of how it represented hope, unity, and the resilience of their community. The sense of connection was palpable, and David felt a warmth in his heart that he had longed for. Later in the evening, as the event began to wind down and the stars twinkled overhead, Marcus approached David with a proud smile. "You really brought everyone together, David. This mural will inspire generations to come." "Thank you, Marcus. I couldn't have done it without your support," David replied, feeling a sense of gratitude wash over him. The journey had not only transformed his life, but it also sparked a movement of creativity and connection within the community. As he looked around at the smiling faces, David felt a surge of determination. This was just the beginning. He envisioned future projects, more collaborations, and the possibility of creating an art program that would allow others to express themselves freely. The ideas flowed through him like paint on a canvas, each one a step toward building a brighter future. In the weeks that followed, David began to take concrete steps toward his vision. He reached out to local organizations to explore partnerships for further art programs, hoping to create a space where people could come together, learn, and share their stories through art. The possibilities seemed endless, and for the first time in a long while, he felt excited about the future. As he continued to paint and teach, David found himself reconnecting with the artist he had once been. He no longer shied away from the canvas. Instead, he embraced it with open arms. Each piece he created was infused with the lessons he had learned and the love he had received from his community. One day, while he was painting in the park, he noticed a group of teenagers watching him from a distance. They seemed intrigued, but hesitant to approach. Remembering his own struggles with confidence, David decided to invite them over. "Hey, would you like to give it a try?" he called out, gesturing to the canvas beside him. To his surprise, they exchanged glances, and one girl stepped forward. "Really? You'd let us paint?" "Absolutely. Art is for everyone," he replied, his heart racing with excitement. As they approached, he realized that these teenagers were looking for a way to express themselves, just as he had once done. What began as a simple invitation turned into an impromptu art session in the park. David guided them as they painted, encouraging them to let their creativity flow. As they laughed and shared stories, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Each brushstroke was a reminder of how far he had come and how he could help others find their voices as well. The days turned into weeks, and David's art program continued to grow. Families, children, and teenagers flocked to the community center, eager to participate in the workshops he organized. Each session was filled with laughter, creativity, and connection, and David reveled in the joy of watching others discover their potential. One sunny afternoon, as he prepared for another workshop, Emily approached him with a bright smile. "I've been talking to some people about the impact you're making, David. They want to support the art program." His heart leaped at the news. "Really? That's incredible. What kind of support?" "They're interested in providing supplies, funding for more workshops, maybe even an exhibition to showcase everyone's work," she explained, her excitement contagious. David could hardly believe what he was hearing. The vision he had nurtured was beginning to take shape, and the possibilities seemed endless. "This could really help us reach more people. We can create more opportunities for everyone to express themselves." As they discussed the details, David felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was not just creating art. He was fostering a community, a place where people could come together, share their stories, and heal through creativity. In the months that followed, David's life transformed in ways he had never imagined. He had become a pillar of the community, a mentor and friend to many, and his art had blossomed into a source of inspiration for others. The mural they had created together became a symbol of hope and resilience, a reminder that even in difficult times, art could bridge divides and bring people together. As he stood in front of the mural one day, surrounded by laughter and chatter, David couldn't help but smile. He had found his place in the world, a purpose that filled his heart with joy. He was no longer just surviving, he was thriving. The journey had not been easy, but it had been worth every step. David had learned that art was not just a hobby, it was a lifeline. It was a way to connect, to heal and to inspire others. And as he moved forward, he carried with him the stories, the dreams, and the love of the community that had embraced him. With each passing day, David felt more confident in his abilities, more connected to those around him, and more hopeful about the future. He knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful new chapter, one that would continue to unfold with creativity, connection, and endless possibilities. As he lay in bed one night, he thought about the journey ahead. He envisioned new projects, perhaps even a community art exhibition that would showcase not only his work, but the work of everyone he had inspired. He imagined the joy on the faces of the children as they saw their art displayed, their pride radiating like the colors they had painted with. With a smile on his face, David drifted off to sleep, dreaming of a world where art could bring people together, heal wounds, and create lasting connections. The future was bright, and he felt ready to embrace every moment of it. As the seasons changed and the warm embrace of summer gave way to the crispness of fall, David's art program continued to flourish. The community center became a hub of creativity, its walls adorned with colorful artwork reflecting the diverse stories of the people who had come together to share their experiences. David felt a sense of pride each time he walked through the doors, knowing that he had played a pivotal role in fostering this vibrant environment. However, with growth came new challenges. As the number of participants in the art program increased, David found himself stretched thin. While he loved every moment spent teaching and creating, the administrative side of running the program began to weigh heavily on him. There were supplies to order, schedules to manage, and events to plan. He often stayed late into the night, poring over paperwork, trying to keep everything organized. One evening, after a particularly long day, David sat at his desk, surrounded by scattered papers and paint tubes. His eyes were heavy and frustration bubbled beneath the surface. He wanted to focus on the creative aspects of the program, but the growing responsibilities were exhausting him. Just then, Emily walked in, her presence brightening the room. "Hey, David, I brought you some coffee," she said, setting down a steaming cup beside him. "You look like you could use it." "Thanks, Emily," he replied, taking a grateful sip. "I'm just trying to keep up with everything. The program is growing faster than I expected, and I'm struggling to manage all the logistics." Emily leaned against the desk, concern etched on her face. "Have you thought about getting some volunteers to help? There are plenty of people in the community who would love to pitch in." David nodded, but doubt crept in. "I'm worried about trusting others with the details. What if they don't do it right? I don't want to let anyone down." "David, you can't do it all alone," Emily urged gently. "You've built something beautiful here, and it's okay to ask for help. Remember, this community is about supporting each other. You've given so much to others. Let them give back to you." Her words resonated with him, and he took a deep breath, contemplating the importance of collaboration. "You're right. I guess I just need to let go of some control." With Emily's encouragement, David decided to hold a meeting the following week to recruit volunteers. As he prepared for the meeting, he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Would people be willing to step up and help? Would they share his vision for the program? On the day of the meeting, he set up chairs in the community center's main hall, decorated with colorful artwork created by the children. As attendees began to filter in, David's heart raced with anticipation. He welcomed everyone warmly, grateful for their presence. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady despite the fluttering in his stomach. "I'm so proud of what we've built together in this art program. It's amazing to see so many people come together to create and share their stories. However, as we grow, I realize I can't do this alone. I need your help to keep the momentum going. As he spoke, he could see interest and enthusiasm growing in the room. There are many ways to get involved, whether it's helping with organizing supplies, planning workshops, or even leading sessions with the kids. Every little bit counts, and your unique talents can make a difference. Hands began to rise, and people expressed their willingness to help. One woman, a retired art teacher named Mrs. Thompson, offered to assist with lesson planning. A local college student volunteered to help with social media and outreach. Others stepped forward to manage supplies and logistics. David felt a wave of relief wash over him. The community was stepping up, just as Emily had said they would. By the end of the meeting, he had a small team of dedicated volunteers ready to share the workload. And for the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of lightness in his heart. As the volunteers began to take on responsibilities, David found himself able to focus more on the creative aspects of the program. He collaborated with Mrs. Thompson on new lesson plans, incorporating more diverse art forms and techniques. They introduced pottery, collage, and even digital art, expanding the horizons of what the children could explore. One sunny Saturday, David and the volunteers organized a family art day, where parents and children could come together to create. The Kauf's Community Center buzzed with activity as families painted, sculpted, and laughed together. David walked around, engaging with everyone, feeling a sense of fulfillment as he watched the connections forming between families. In the midst of the excitement, he noticed a quiet girl named Lily, who had participated in the program since its inception. She sat at a table, her brow furrowed in concentration as she painted a large canvas. David approached her. Curiosity piqued. "What are you working on, Lily?" She looked up, her eyes brightening. "I'm painting a garden. I want it to be really colorful, like a place where everyone can come and be happy." "That sounds beautiful," David said, kneeling beside her. "Do you want to add some butterflies or flowers? They could make it even more vibrant." Lily nodded enthusiastically, and together they brainstormed ideas for her painting. As they worked side by side, David felt a sense of joy in nurturing her creativity. It reminded him of the early days when he had first begun to rediscover his passion for art. As the weeks passed, the art program continued to thrive. David felt invigorated by the collaboration, and the community spirit was palpable. The volunteers brought fresh ideas and perspectives, making the program even more dynamic. David found himself forming deeper connections with the people around him, discovering their stories and passions. One evening, as he was tidying up after a particularly successful workshop, Marcus stopped by with a beaming smile. "David, I just got off the phone with a local gallery. They want to showcase our community mural in an upcoming exhibition." David's heart raced at the news. "Are you serious? That's amazing." The thought of their collective work being displayed in a gallery filled him with a sense of pride and accomplishment. This is a testament to all the hard work everyone has put in. They're also interested in featuring some of the kids' artwork alongside it, Marcus added. It's a great opportunity for them to gain exposure and feel proud of their creations. Overwhelmed with joy, David felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was not just an exhibition. It was a chance to elevate the voices of the children in the program, to give them a platform to shine. We need to involve the kids in the planning. They should have a say in how their work is presented. With the exhibition on the horizon, David and the volunteers organized brainstorming sessions with the children. They discussed how to showcase their artwork, what themes to highlight, and even how to create a welcoming environment for visitors. The excitement in the air was contagious, and David was amazed by the innovative ideas that poured forth from the young artists. As the day of the exhibition approached, David found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him to this point. The challenges he had faced and overcome had shaped him into a more resilient person. He had learned to lean on others, to collaborate, and to embrace the beauty of community. Finally, the night of the exhibition arrived, and the community center was transformed into a vibrant gallery. Colorful lights illuminated the walls, adorned with the mural and the children's artwork, and a sense of anticipation filled the air. Families, friends, and community members gathered to celebrate the creativity that had blossomed within their midst. As David stood at the entrance, welcoming guests, he felt a surge of gratitude. This was more than just an exhibition. It was a celebration of resilience and hope, a testament to the power of art to bring people together. He watched as families admired the mural, exchanging stories and laughter, and he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Throughout the evening, David moved through the crowd, engaging with visitors and sharing the stories behind the artwork. The children beamed with pride as they explained their creations, their confidence growing with every compliment. At one point, David found himself standing beside the mural, surrounded by a group of children. Lily approached him, her eyes shining. "Thank you for believing in us, Mr. David. I'm really happy to be part of this." David knelt down to her level, his heart swelling with emotion. "You all have incredible talent and creativity. This mural is a reflection of your stories, and I'm so proud of each and every one of you." As the night came to a close, David reflected on how far he had come. The journey had not been without its challenges, but he had faced them head-on, learning to embrace collaboration and trust in the community around him. The art program had not only transformed the lives of the children, but had also rekindled his own passion for creativity. Looking around at the smiling faces, David felt a sense of hope for the future. He knew that as long as they continued to support one another, their community would only grow stronger. And with that thought, he was excited to see where this journey would take them next.